How hard, or conversely, how easy is it to break a tennis racket? Let's find out. Okay, genuine question here. Hopefully most people have never broken a tennis racket, and I would say hopefully you never should, but basically don't break tennis rackets. They're not cheap things, and they are not indestructible, and they should be treated with respect. Unless you accidentally you're serving and the racket just slips out of your hand and plows into the ground and cracks, which can happen. Basically, unless you accidentally break it, really, you should never be breaking a racket. If you get angry, if you want to smash it on the ground, do you know what? It's not the racket's fault. So, deal with your anger some other way, because unless you've got lots and lots of money, you really shouldn't be breaking them, and it's never a good thing. It might look fun when you see people like Bublik smashing rackets on the ground. We might like to see that. What I would say is if you do it, you'll instantly regret it. So today though, I'm going to show you how hard or easy it is to break a racket. And actually, I was talking to a mum the other day, whose son is in a squad that my daughter's in, and she came over and she was talking. They'd bought her son a new racket, a Babolat Pure Aero, and she said, the other day he scratched it on the ground and he chipped the paint, and she was like, oh my God, is that okay? Has he broken the racket? And I was like, no, that's just, you just chipped the paint. I mean, reading about it, every time the racket hits the ball, every time it scratches the ground, then it slightly weakens the graphite in the frame, but it's not going to break it. So it's kind of like, and I guess in that as well, there is this perception that they're not very robust things. I mean, they are made of layers of graphite, which in itself is strong, but it's not meant to be smashed. So it's a windy day outside. I'm going to take the racket down the back, and I'm going to perform a range of different actions. Note, this racket is already cracked. I don't really know how. It's my daughter's, or one of my daughters, but it is cracked. And therefore I don't mind sacrificing this racket. And I'm going to do a range of things, for instance, things like scraping it on the ground, as if simulating you scraping it when maybe you do a backhand slice, or go for a low pickup, hitting it on your shoe as if you're playing on a clay court. What if we bounce it? What if we just tap it on the ground, through to basically how hard is it to actually destroy one of these things? How much force have you got to use? So let's get out the back and give it a go. Okay, so we've got our already broken tennis racket. I remember now it was my daughter hitting against the eye coach. So she just kept hitting the frame, which is a good reminder to, watch the ball and hit in the middle of the strings. So not her fault, but it's cracked the frame. So this racket's already gone, so I don't mind breaking it. Okay, so let's look at the first way, which can we break a racket by hitting it on our shoe? What I'm going to do is focus on this area here, around sort of the H and the E of the head. That's sort of the typical area where you might smack the racket. So, what about if we hit it on our shoe? Okay. Nope, absolutely nothing. It's absolutely fine. So, smacking it on the shoe, obviously clay court players do it a lot, but if you did that in anger, doesn't appear you're going to break it if you're hitting it 5 times. Next up, what if we scrape it on the ground where we're going for a low shot? Okay. Nope, no cracks there. It's obviously taken a bit of the paint off, but going for a low shot and chipping on the ground just doesn't feel like there's enough force there to break the frame. So that's fine. What about if we do one of the classic throwing it down flat? So apart from obviously the existing crack, that doesn't appear to have cracked the racket at all, and that's probably the reason why people do it, because doesn't really do much damage to the frame. Okay, what about if we bounce it? Again, nothing obvious there. It's making the existing crack a little bit worse, but apart from that, nothing. So let's get on to the fun stuff. Let's face it, what's the two key ways that people really break a racket? It's smashing it on the ground, boom, or around a net post. I don't have a net post, so we're going to use the ground. And where's the obvious place? Just around this spot here. So I'm going to go up in percentages. First of all, I'm going to do it with no real effort at all. So we can call that 10%. That hasn't cracked the frame. Now let's do it as if I'm hammering a nail into a block of Edam. So probably about 30%. Okay, so reasonably hard. Still no cracks evident there. So now let's go, I'm hammering a nail into a piece of wood. Now, looks like we've got a crack just appearing in there, sort of a hairline crack, but that could just be the paintwork. And in fact, what you can see is I have cracked down here. So there is now a crack in the frame. Now bear in mind there was probably some existing damage. So let's see now if we go up to full whack, what happens then. I'm gonna go for a big one. I'm not quite sure about you, but I think that might have broken the frame. And you see, just around where I really smashed it, that's the impact point, and interesting, it's just we messed on the frame in. Let's give it another go. Yeah, I think that has pretty much done that racket in. One final one I'm going to do. Got my brick. What happens if I stamp on the throat? And I'm gonna jump both feet. Yep, that will do your frame as well. So there we go. What does it take to break a tennis racket? Okay, so what have we learned from that? It's incredibly possible to break a tennis racket. That said, I mean, if you just continuously abuse your racket and just continue just hitting it on the ground, even with not much force, eventually it's going to crack. You are going to damage the frame. To do it in one go, however, I think you can see there, you've actually got to put in a really, you've got to be really going for it. I mean, obviously me jumping both feet on the throat, I mean, that's an obvious one, but the amount of power I had to put in to destroy that frame was quite a lot. When you consider I was hammering at the force, if I were hammering a nail into a piece of wood and it didn't break, it maybe got a little hairline crack. I mean, that sort of suggests these things are actually very, very tough. And it took, it was like I was swinging a sledgehammer to absolutely destroy the thing. And of course, then jumping, I weigh 85 kilos. So jumping 85 kilos on the throat when it's sat on a brick, yeah, you're gonna break your racket like that. So bottom line is, they are robust. Bear in mind, obviously I was only hitting 3 or 4 times. If you do that repeatedly, like every day, you're banging your racket against the ground, even with not much force, expect it to break. And I'll tell you what, when you do, you're gonna get home and look at your racket and think, firstly, if you're a kid, you've got to explain to your mum and dad why they need to spend another 150, 200 pounds on a racket. Or if you're your own, then you've got to suddenly go, damn, I've got to pay, if I want to continue playing, I've got to buy a new racket. Secondly, you just kind of look and go, what did I do that for? Again, this was already broken, this racket, so it was only going in the bin. But yeah, while it might look good on TV, that's because we're a little bit abstracted, right? It's entertainment. Believe me, you will feel stink if you break your racket. Yeah, people around you might laugh and go, whoa, yeah, but you yourself will go, I wish I hadn't done that. So anyway, that's how hard or easy it was. I would say it's medium to hard difficulty to do in one go. Easy if you just keep smacking your racket on the ground day by day. So bottom line is, this thing should not touch the ground, the net post, or anything else unless it is as part of normal play. Don't do it.